You ever ignore your gut just to fit in? I did, and it almost cost me everything. I was 24 when I boarded the Celestial Pearl, a luxury cruise liner departing from Miami and winding through the Western Caribbean. It was supposed to be a celebration. My college friends, Tasha, Bree, and Marcus, had all chipped in for a group booking. We'd just landed decent jobs after years of scraping by on internships and ramen. This was our victory lap. The ship was enormous, 16 decks, glass elevators, an atrium that glittered like the inside of a chandelier, pools on every level, bars with names like Opal Lounge and the Sapphire Room. Everything felt too polished, too perfect. We spent the first day exploring. Tasha wanted to hit the spa. Bree dragged us to the rooftop bar. Marcus found the casino and lost $40 in 10 minutes. That night, we dressed up for the welcome party on Deck 9, a sprawling open-air space strung with warm lights and lined with cushioned loungers. The DJ spun something upbeat. People danced. Waiters glided through the crowd with trays of glowing cocktails. I felt good. For the first time in months, I felt light. Then I saw the flyer. It was tucked into a frame near the dessert table, printed on thick cardstock with ornate gold lettering. Exclusive masquerade party, invitation only, Deck 14, midnight. Bree spotted it first. "Oh my God, we have to get in," she said, eyes wide. "It says invitation only," I pointed out. "So?" Marcus grinned. "We'll charm our way in." Tasha laughed. "Or we'll just walk in. Who's gonna stop us?" I hesitated. Something about the flyer felt off. The font was too elaborate, the wording too formal for a casual cruise event. But I didn't say anything. We spent the rest of the evening scheming how to get on to Deck 14. Marcus asked a bartender about it, but the guy just smiled and said, "You'll know if you're invited." That only made them more determined. At 11:45 p.m., we made our way to the elevator bank. Deck 14 wasn't listed on the panel. "Maybe it's staff only," I said. "Or maybe it's hidden," Bree whispered, eyes gleaming. Marcus pressed the button for Deck 13, and we rode up in silence. When the doors opened, the hallway was dimmer than the others. No overhead lights, just soft sconces that cast long shadows. At the far end was a narrow staircase, roped off with a velvet cord. Tasha didn't even pause. She ducked under it and started climbing. We followed. The stairs were steep and spiraled upward. The air grew cooler. I could hear faint music drifting down, something slow, haunting with strings and a deep pulse underneath. At the top was a heavy door, slightly ajar. Bree pushed it open. Deck 14 was nothing like the rest of the ship. The space was smaller, more intimate. The ceiling was draped in dark fabric that rippled like water. Candles flickered on tables. A live band played in the corner, violin, cello, something I couldn't name. And everyone was wearing masks, elaborate ones, feathered, jeweled, grotesque. Some covered entire faces, others just the eyes. No one looked at us directly, but I felt watched. A woman in a silver gown drifted past, her mask shaped like a bird with a long, curved beak. A man in a tuxedo stood near the bar, his mask blank and white, no features at all. "This is incredible," Tasha breathed. Marcus grabbed a champagne flute from a passing tray. Bree was already pulling out her phone to record. I stayed close to the door. Something was wrong. The music wasn't just slow, it was dissonant. The notes didn't quite fit together. The rhythm felt off. And the people. They moved too smoothly, too synchronized, like they were following choreography no one had taught them. "We should go," I said quietly. "Are you kidding?" Bree turned to me, eyes bright behind the mask she'd picked up from a table. "This is the coolest thing we've ever done." "We weren't invited." "So what?" Marcus laughed. "We're here now." I watched as a server approached Tasha, offering her a mask from a velvet tray. She picked one, a golden half mask with sharp, angular edges. The moment she put it on, her posture changed, her shoulders relaxed, her smile softened. She turned toward the dance floor without a word and walked away. "Tasha," I called. She didn't respond. Bree followed her, giggling, mask already in place. Marcus grabbed one too, a dark leather piece that covered his eyes and nose. He looked at me, grinned, and said, "Loosen up." Then he turned and melted into the crowd. I stood there alone. The music swelled, the candles flickered in unison. And I realized no one was talking. Not a single person on that deck was speaking. Just music, just movement, just masks. I backed toward the door. A hand touched my shoulder. I spun. It was the woman in the bird mask. Up close, I could see her eyes through the narrow slits. They were glassy, unfocused. She held out a mask to me. Black lace, delicate, beautiful. I shook my head. She didn't move, just held it there, waiting. "No, thank you," I whispered. Her head tilted. Then slowly she smiled, and I saw it. Her teeth were wrong. Too sharp. Too many. I bolted. I shoved past her, nearly tripping over my own feet as I stumbled back down the spiral staircase. Behind me, I heard the music stop. Then footsteps. Slow. Steady. I didn't look back. I burst through the door onto deck 13, gasping for air. The hallway was empty. I ran to the elevator and jabbed the button over and over until the doors finally opened. As they closed, I caught a glimpse of the staircase. 3 figures stood at the top, masked and motionless, watching me descend. I didn't sleep that night. I texted Tasha, Bree, and Marcus. No replies. At 6 a.m., I went to their cabins. All 3 were inside, asleep. When I woke Tasha, she looked at me like I was crazy. "What party?" she asked. "Deck 14 last night. You put on a mask." She frowned. "We went to bed at midnight. You were with us." Bree said the same thing. So did Marcus. None of them remembered. I checked my phone. The photos Bree had taken were gone. Not deleted, just gone. Like they'd never existed. I asked the crew about Deck 14. They looked confused. "There is no Deck 14, one of them said gently. "The ship only goes to Deck 13. I stood there, trembling, as he walked away. That night I found a mask on my pillow. Black lace. Delicate. Beautiful. The same one the woman had offered me. I threw it overboard. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the music. Slow. Dissonant. Calling. And I wonder, what would have happened if I'd put it on?" The DJ never stopped smiling. Not once. Not even when the screaming started. "Before we go further, tell me, have you ever been somewhere that felt too good to be true? A place where everyone seemed just a little too happy? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your story." I was 22 when I signed up for the Eclipse Horizon cruise. It wasn't my idea. My roommate Vanessa had found a deal online. 7 nights through the Eastern Caribbean with an emphasis on nightlife. Club nights, DJ sets, themed parties every evening. "It's like Ibiza on water," she said, shoving her phone in my face. I wasn't a party person, not really, but I'd just broken up with my boyfriend of 3 years, and everyone kept telling me I needed to get out there. So I said yes. We boarded in Fort Lauderdale on a muggy Thursday afternoon. The ship was sleek and modern, all glass and chrome. The main atrium had a 3-story LED screen that cycled through neon patterns, pinks, blues, greens, like a living kaleidoscope. Vanessa was in heaven. "This is going to be insane," she said, bouncing on her heels as we checked in. Our cabin was small but clean. 2 twin beds, a porthole window, a bathroom the size of a closet. We unpacked quickly and headed to the pool deck for the sail-away party. By sunset, the ship was buzzing. Music thumped from every direction. People danced on the upper decks. Waiters handed out fluorescent cocktails in plastic cups. Everyone was young, vibrant, laughing. It felt electric. That first night, there was a foam party on Deck 10. Vanessa dragged me into the chaos, foam up to our waists, bodies pressing together, lights flashing in time with the bass. I let go. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't replaying conversations or wondering what went wrong. I was just there. The second night was even bigger. The ship's main event was called Neon Night, a glow-in-the-dark party that took over the entire aft deck. They handed out bracelets at the entrance, thick rubber bands that glowed bright green under blacklight. "Everyone gets one," the crew member said with a grin. "No entry without it." Vanessa snapped hers on immediately. I hesitated. Something about the way he said it felt scripted. But the music was already pulling us in, deep and hypnotic, layered with synths that seemed to vibrate through the floor. I put the bracelet on. The deck was transformed. Everything glowed. The walls were draped in UV reactive fabric. The floor was painted with swirling patterns that seemed to shift as you walked. People's clothes, their skin, their teeth, all glowing under the lights. And at the center of it all was the DJ booth, a massive structure that looked more like a spaceship than a stage, surrounded by screens that pulsed with abstract shapes. The DJ stood behind the decks, headphones on, hands moving in smooth, practiced motions. He wore a white mask that covered the top half of his face, smooth, featureless, glowing faintly blue. But his smile, that smile was wide, too wide, and it never changed. Not when the beat dropped, not when the crowd screamed, not when the lights strobed so fast I thought I might pass out. Just that same frozen smile. Vanessa was lost in the music almost immediately. She danced with her eyes closed, arms above her head, swaying like she was underwater. I tried to keep up, but something felt off. The music was good, too good. It didn't just move through me, it pulled at me, like invisible threads tugging at my chest, my limbs, my thoughts. I looked around. Everyone was moving in sync. Not perfectly, but close. Their arms rose and fell at the same time, their heads tilted in unison, their feet shuffled to the same rhythm. I stopped dancing. Vanessa didn't notice. Neither did anyone else. I took a step back, then another, until I was at the edge of the crowd. The DJ turned his head, slowly, deliberately, and even though I couldn't see his eyes behind the mask, I knew he was looking at me. His smile didn't change, but his hand moved. He twisted a dial on the mixer, and the music shifted. The bass deepened. The melody became sharper, more insistent, and the crowd responded. They moved faster, closer, tighter. I felt it too, a pull in my chest, urging me to step forward, to rejoin them, to let go. I looked down at my wrist. The bracelet was glowing brighter now, pulsing in time with the beat. I ripped it off. The moment it left my skin, the pull stopped. I could breathe again. But when I looked up, the DJ was still watching me. And now, so were others. People at the edges of the crowd had stopped dancing. They stood perfectly still, heads turned toward me, glowing eyes unblinking. Vanessa was among them. "Ness?" I whispered. She didn't respond. Her smile was the same as the DJ's, wide, frozen, wrong. I backed toward the exit. The music grew louder, more aggressive, like it was angry. The crowd began to move toward me, not running, just walking, slowly, steadily, in perfect sync. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I reached our cabin. I locked the door, shoved a chair under the handle, and sat on the floor with my back against the wall. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might crack a rib. I checked my phone. No signal. The ship's Wi-Fi was down. I waited. At 3:17 a.m., there was a knock on the door, soft, rhythmic. 3 taps, pause. 3 taps. "Let me in." It was Vanessa's voice, but it didn't sound like her. It was too flat, too measured. "Ness, are you okay?" I asked. "Let me in," she repeated, exact same tone. I looked through the peephole. She stood in the hallway, perfectly still, hands at her sides. Her smile was too wide. Her eyes reflected the dim hallway light like mirrors, and on her wrist, the bracelet glowed. I didn't open the door. She knocked again, and again, and again, for 2 hours straight. Then, at dawn, it stopped. When I finally opened the door, Vanessa was asleep in her bed, curled up like nothing had happened. I shook her awake. "Where were you last night?" I demanded. She blinked, confused. "What do you mean? I was here. We came back together after the party." "No, you stayed. You were outside the door." She laughed. "You're losing it. I've been asleep since midnight." I showed her the peephole footage I'd recorded on my phone. The screen was black, no video, no audio, just static. I didn't go to any more parties. I stayed in the cabin, only leaving for meals, always during daylight. Vanessa went every night, and every night she came back a little different. Quieter, calmer, smiling more. On the final night, she didn't come back at all. I searched the ship, asked the crew, checked the pools, the lounges, the decks. Nothing. Then I heard the music. Faint, distant, coming from somewhere deep in the ship. I followed it down, past the crew corridors, past the engine rooms, to a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." It was unlocked. Inside was a room filled with screens. Each one showed a different part of the ship, different parties, different crowds, and in every single one, people wore glowing bracelets, and in every single one, they moved in perfect sync. At the center of the room was a console, and standing at it, still wearing his mask, still smiling, was the DJ. He turned toward me. "You took off your bracelet," he said, voice smooth and cold. "Where's Vanessa?" He gestured to one of the screens. She was there, dancing on the neon deck, bracelet glowing, eyes empty, smile wide. "She's happy now," he said. "They all are." I ran. I disembarked the moment we docked. I filed reports, talked to the authorities, showed them everything. They found nothing. No secret room, no extra DJ, no missing passengers. Vanessa came home 3 days later. She didn't remember anything after the second night, but sometimes, late at night, I see her standing by the window, smiling, staring at nothing, and on her wrist, faint but visible in the dark, the bracelet still glows. They told us it was a celebration, a way to honor the voyage, but nobody mentioned the part where we couldn't leave. Before we dive in, I want to know, have you ever been to a party where something felt just slightly wrong, but you couldn't put your finger on it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what happened. I turned 25 aboard the Serafina's Dream. It wasn't planned that way. My birthday just happened to fall on the 4th night of a 10-day Mediterranean cruise I'd booked with my boyfriend, Derek. We'd been together for 2 years, and things had been rocky. This trip was supposed to be a reset, a chance to reconnect away from work stress, family drama, and the monotony of our everyday lives. The ship was beautiful. Old-world elegance mixed with modern luxury. Polished wood, brass fixtures, velvet curtains in the dining halls. It felt like stepping into a different era. Derek and I spent the first few days exploring ports, Santorini, Mykonos, Rhodes. We took photos, ate fresh seafood, argued less than usual. It almost felt like things were getting better. On the evening of my birthday, Derek surprised me with reservations at the ship's most exclusive restaurant, the Admiral's Table, a small, invitation-only dining room on the top deck. "How did you get us in?" I asked, impressed. He grinned. "I have my ways." We dressed up. I wore a navy dress I'd been saving. Derek put on a blazer. We held hands as we walked to the elevator. For a moment, it felt like the beginning again. The Admiral's table was stunning. Only 10 tables, each draped in white linen and lit by candlelight. The walls were lined with dark wood paneling and oil paintings of ships at sea. Soft piano music played from somewhere unseen. A host in a crisp uniform greeted us at the door. "Mr. Calloway and guest," Derek said confidently. The host checked his list, then smiled. "Right this way." We were seated near the window, overlooking the black expanse of ocean. The moon hung low and bright, casting a silver trail across the water. It was perfect. We ordered wine, appetizers. Derek toasted to my birthday, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. Halfway through the meal, the lights dimmed. The piano music stopped. A voice came over the intercom, smooth, warm, theatrical. "Good evening, honored guests. Tonight we have a very special tradition aboard the Serafina's Dream. Once per voyage, the captain hosts a private gathering for a select few passengers. If you are in the Admiral's table this evening, you have been chosen." I looked at Derek. He shrugged, smiling. The host reappeared, now holding a silver tray with small, elegant envelopes. He placed one at each table. Ours was sealed with dark red wax, embossed with an anchor. "What is this?" I whispered. Derek opened it. Inside was a card, handwritten in looping script. "You are cordially invited to the captain's toast. Midnight. The compass room. Attendance is required." "Required?" I frowned. Derek laughed. "It's just fancy cruise talk. They probably want us to feel special." "But midnight? That's in 2 hours." "So? It'll be fun. Come on, it's your birthday." I didn't argue. At 11:50 p.m., we made our way to the compass room. It was located on Deck 3, near the ship's bridge, a part of the vessel we hadn't explored yet. The hallway leading there was narrow and dimly lit. The carpet was older here, the walls less polished. The door to the compass room was heavy, dark wood with brass fittings. It was already open. Inside, the room was circular, with a domed ceiling painted to look like a star map. A large round table sat in the center, surrounded by high-backed chairs. And seated in those chairs were the other guests from the Admiral's table. All 10 of us. A tall man in a crisp white uniform stood at the head of the table. His hair was silver, neatly combed. His eyes were pale blue, sharp and assessing. "Welcome," he said, voice rich and commanding. "I am Captain Aldrich Thorne. Please, be seated." We sat. The door closed behind us. I heard the lock click. Derek didn't seem to notice. He was too busy admiring the room, the paintings, the antique navigation instruments mounted on the walls. But I noticed. Captain Thorne poured wine into crystal glasses arranged on the table. "This," he said, "is a tradition that has been observed on this ship for over 70 years. A toast to the sea, a toast to safe passage, and a toast to those who journey with us." He raised his glass. We all did the same. "To the voyage," he said. "To the voyage," we echoed. I brought the glass to my lips. The wine smelled wrong. Not spoiled, just off. Sweet and bitter at the same time, with a faint metallic edge. I pretended to sip, then set the glass down. Derek drank his in one go. So did everyone else. Captain Thorne smiled. "Excellent. Now let us begin." "Begin what?" I asked. He turned to me, his pale eyes locking onto mine. "The choosing." The room grew colder. The lights dimmed until only the candles on the table remained, flickering weakly. The other guests sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead, eyes glassy. Derek's hand went slack in mine. "Derek," I whispered. He didn't respond. Captain Thorne walked slowly around the table, studying each guest like a judge at a competition. "Every voyage," he said, voice calm and measured, requires a sacrifice, not of blood, but of devotion. The sea is a jealous mistress. She demands loyalty, and in return she grants safe passage. He stopped behind a woman in her 50s, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You," he said. She stood without hesitation, face blank. "No," I said, voice cracking. "What are you doing?" He didn't look at me, just gestured toward the far wall. A section of the paneling slid open, revealing a narrow corridor that led into darkness. The woman walked toward it. "Stop!" I shouted, standing. But no one moved, no one reacted. She stepped into the corridor. The panel closed. "Derek, wake up!" I grabbed his arm, shook him hard. His eyes were open, but he didn't see me. Captain Thorne continued around the table. He stopped behind a young man, maybe mid-20s. "You." The man stood and walked toward the corridor. I lunged forward, but the captain caught my wrist. His grip was ice cold. "You did not drink," he said softly. "That makes you aware. Let go of me." "You should have drunk, my dear. It would have been easier." "Easier for what?" He tilted his head, studying me like a curiosity. "The sea needs willing hearts, but sometimes she will accept a witness." He released me. "Go," he said. "Leave this room, but know this. You cannot speak of what you have seen. Not to your companion, not to the crew, not to anyone. If you do, the sea will come for you." I didn't wait. I ran. The door was unlocked now. I burst into the hallway, gasping for air, legs shaking so badly I could barely stand. Behind me, I heard Captain Thorne's voice, calm and final. "You." Derek returned to our cabin at 3 a.m. He looked tired but normal, smiled when he saw me. "Hey, sorry. I think I passed out. The wine hit me hard." "Do you remember anything?" I asked carefully. He frowned. "We had dinner, right? And then, I don't know, it's kind of fuzzy." I wanted to tell him, I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because when I looked out the porthole window, I saw something in the water. A pale hand just beneath the surface, fingers splayed, then it disappeared. We disembarked 5 days later. I filed no reports, made no calls. I tried to forget, but 2 weeks ago, I received a package. Inside was a bottle of wine, dark red, sealed with wax, and a note in looping script. "Thank you for your silence. The sea is pleased." I haven't opened it, but every night I dream of the compass room, and every night I hear Captain Thorne's voice. "You."